Hello, friends. My name is Nick Page, and I'm the NDP candidate for Burlington. I'm here today to talk about a topic that has become fairly popular in the last little while: strategic voting. Ideally, in an election, you'd vote for the outcome you most want. Unfortunately, there is no such thing as a perfect voting system. You can look up Arrow's theorem if you want like mathematical details. So sometimes you need to vote differently to get around a structural flaw in the voting system. So, thought experiment. Let's consider a large group of people trying to decide what to order for dessert. We're going to get a big bulk discount, so we can only get one thing. And the options are cake, pie, or black licorice. The votes end up coming in 40% for licorice, 35% for cake, and 25% for pie. Licorice carries the day. But wait, the cake people will say. If the options were just black licorice or a sweet pastry, then clearly the results would have been 60% pastry, 40% licorice. So if we could just remove pie from the ballot, cake would win. Unfortunately for them, we're using first past the post and not a ranked ballot system, so it's not that easy. But if they got together beforehand with the pie people, maybe they could convince some of them to vote for cake instead. Switch even 6% of them and you end up 40% licorice, 41% cake, 19% pie, and cake carries the day. The unpalatable, for many, black licorice is defeated. Strategic voting can work. It requires two similar options, an unpalatable third option, the foresight to identify the most likely winner of our coalition, and the coordination to ensure the right people switch their votes. The problem with Liberal supporters shouting from rooftops right now that NDP supporters need to switch is that all four of those requirements have issues. Are the NDP and the Liberals similar? On paper, absolutely, yes. I've seen Liberal supporters claiming that their platform is an NDP supporter's dream. That may be true, but the Liberal Party won't actually implement much of what they say. We know this is true because if they actually wanted to implement NDP policies, they could have done so without this election. The NDP in the House of Commons was enough to get them anything through the House. We would have supported them on bills doing what we want. As such, NDP supporters don't agree that we're similar to the Liberals, because we think the NDP will actually implement an NDP dream platform, and the Liberals won't. Are the Conservatives unpalatable? I think so, but the Liberals don't. Justin Trudeau called this election when he didn't need to. The only way to justify making that call is they believed they could get a majority out of it, and were not worried about the Conservatives seizing power instead. And if you look at how Trudeau has actually governed, and not at his platform, you can understand why this would be. Liberals complain about actions Conservatives take, but they don't reverse them when they get in. When it comes to carbon targets, for example, they don't even meet Conservative goals, let alone their own. Can we identify the winner between Liberal and NDP? The Liberals will have you believe that we can, and that the answer is Liberal. But it isn't actually that clear, even here in Burlington, which has never elected an NDP representative. We only have to look at the 2018 Ontario election to see why this is a problem. The provincial Liberals had been in power for 15 years, and their campaign had obviously collapsed. If you want to talk unpalatable, Doug Ford is unpalatable. And yet the Liberals took actions late in that campaign to salvage a few of their own seats and let Ford win others by attacking the NDP. The end result in Burlington was PC 40%, NDP 29%, Liberal 25%, with a large surge of votes on election day for the Liberals. Which leads into the coordination problem. Left-leaning voters in Burlington have been told forever that the only chance to defeat a Conservative is a Liberal. There were plenty of voters who didn't investigate the current situation on the ground in Burlington, were scared, rightly, of a Conservative government, and voted the way they've been told to: Liberal. This is the problem with uncritical messaging on strategic voting. It hurts progressives when applied incorrectly. It also hurts other parties in the long run, as it gets harder and harder to get volunteers, to fundraise, and to get candidates going forward when everyone is telling you it simply doesn't matter. Now, I have to admit to personally voting strategically in 2015. I voted Liberal, and my riding flipped from Conservative to Liberal that year. Why? Well, in 2015, Justin Trudeau said, and I quote, "We are committed to ensuring that the 2015 election will be the last federal election using first past the post." And then all of the people behind him cheered for like a minute and a half. 2015 Nick believed Justin Trudeau. My friends who were more involved in politics at the time laughed at my naivete. Trudeau only said that to steal thunder from the NDP, they said, and there was no way he'd actually make a change from first past the post. Liberals aren't that different from Conservatives, I was told, and they're happy to bounce power back and forth. I didn't believe them. Or maybe more accurately, I didn't want to believe them. I've always had some way out their ideas for what government should do, and I've never seen a path to making something like universal basic income or copyright reform a reality under first past the post. And here was a chance to make it happen. Unfortunately, as is often the case, the people more involved in something were more correct about it. The Liberals didn't change our electoral system. They didn't even propose something that Canadians shot down. They made a performative show about looking into it, and then had Burlington's own Karina Gould, as Minister of Democratic Institutions, remove the concept from her portfolio. Which, it turns out, really is the Liberal way. Say the right words, pretend to care about something, and then do nothing about it. That works out okay in contrast to the Conservatives, who seem to take pride in saying the wrong thing, but it doesn't actually get anything done. I believe Trudeau when he said changing our electoral system was important in order to prevent 39% Conservative majorities, because that is a fact. It's a consequence of first past the post. That Trudeau lied about changing it doesn't mean it wasn't right to change it. But what it does mean, to me, is that Trudeau, Minister Karina Gould, and the Liberal Party have abdicated any right to strategic voting in their favor. They could have removed this burden from Canadians. They should have removed this burden from Canadians. Instead, they made the conscious choice to stay in this system under the belief that Canadians could continue to be duped into voting strategically for them. In my eyes, they have lost any moral high ground when it comes to deserving an anti-conservative vote. On top of that, this whole entire election was completely unnecessary. Trudeau hadn't lost confidence in the House. The only reason we're holding an election during a deadly pandemic is he wasn't afraid of the Conservatives winning. He thought he could get a majority out of this election. It hadn't been shown he couldn't work with the House of Commons. He just didn't want to put in the effort to do so anymore. Rewarding him with a strategic vote in order to save him from a mistake of his own making twice over is a bridge too far for me. Strategic voting can work if you have an informed and coordinated electorate. Strategic voting against the Conservatives in Canada could work if you found a party to vote for that actually differed from them in significant ways. I don't think those conditions have been met this election, and if they have, it would be voting NDP to keep the Conservatives and the Liberals out. The NDP is committed to moving away from first past the post, and not in the way Trudeau was, where he says something and then doesn't follow through. It may be the black and white thinking that my autistic brain provides me, but I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I was elected to Parliament and then didn't follow through on a core promise as best that I could. I will do absolutely everything in my power to make it happen. I guarantee it. Thank you.